Well, pull up a chair and set a spell here at Tales from SYL Ranch Live, the vlogcast that reminds you to always know where your towel is. And I'm your host, Bill Stone. And tonight on Tales from SYL Ranch, we have the Fandi Masters mini review of Doctor Who Season 11, Episode 8, The Witchfinders. Now, to explain my review for new viewers or people who might not pop in at the top of the hour and give them some chance to, I do live reviews. Sometimes I do serious films and TV, sometimes I do schlock, and sometimes I do something with a broad appeal, like on Sundays when I'm doing a Doctor Who. Usually, however, I will probably try to confine myself to a period from about 1900 to 1980. And that's because the period after 1980 has a lot of science fiction that's pretty well documented because of all the combination of all the great science fiction we got and all the equipment that we got to do it with. But the period from 1900 to 1980 also has a lot of science fiction and a lot of science fiction fandom that hasn't been documented. And so part of the reason I do the show is to document it. It is live, so I will take any and all questions, comments, and nasty remarks. I will respond to as many of my viewers as possible. You can tell me if I'm missing something, if I'm totally full of crap, or if I just happen to be amazingly hoopy-frood, which is probably more likely. I go into more depth than most reviewers. I don't just say whether I like the movie or not. I talk about the acting, the directing, the cinematography, the mechanics of making a film. And I can do this to some extent because a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I was once an actor. So I can speak with a little authority. Not as much as a modern working actor, and I never ever want to give that impression, but with some authority. As they often say, those who can do, and those who can't teach. My reviews are probably closer to teaching. However, my Doctor Who reviews, because I'm doing them right after I watch them, well, within a few hours. I watch them before most people in the U.S. They're mini reviews. I don't go into the same kind of depth, but I think you're going to find that I probably go into more depth than most YouTube reviewers as is. I try not to tell you just how you felt about something. I try to tell you why maybe you felt that way. Hi, Larry. Yes, back in the Badlands. Working on a weird deal here with my lighting and how it sometimes makes my backgrounds look. And I'm starting to run out of TARDIS interiors to put in. I've done, 7 of them so far. And I had one for tonight, but it looked like crap under lighting. So I thought, screw it. We'll just go for this one. What I may do for the next 2 episodes is just find some unusual place and stick the TARDIS into it like I've done in the background here over my shoulder. So, Doctor Who Season 11, Episode 8. Now only 2 left in this season. As a spoiler review on the Witchfinders, I can tell you, I did like this one. I liked it. It did largely, to various extents, kind of keep me on the edge of my seat. And that was mostly because, not so much what went on in it, but because I know this period in history. And so you kept wondering what these crazy Witchfinder fracks might do next. I did see some things coming as the Fandi Master, but I still did like it. It does feel maybe more like the show is starting to hit its stride with the last couple of weeks, which is unfortunate considering there's only 2 episodes left. So, screen cap a 4th Doctor intro. I have done stuff like that. Putting in anything like a time vortex, oh man, that really looks terrible. I can get away with certain things when I've done the 60s, and I've sometimes put little psychedelic stuff up in the back. That is as close as you can come. When you get something with that much color in it, you get lost in it. It's very weird. You want to see something that's got a little bit of my own in-jokes. My thumbnails always have a jackalope in them somewhere. There's a jackalope in these. If you look very carefully, dead center, you will see it. So, having said all of that, I guess I will issue myself a...
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. All hands, prepare for incoming spoilers.
Yes, it is a spoiler alert, and that is because I am the Fandi Master, and that means that the fandom is strong with me. And that means that nothing is new, nothing is original, and at worst I figure it out about a half an hour early. This is not a boast or a brag. Unfortunately, this is where you find yourself after you've watched, read, and listened to about 100 years worth of science fiction. You just can't see the new stuff for the whole century that came before, and you discover there just isn't that much that's very new in the world. So, if you follow me past this spoiler, I guess I would have to assume that you've watched the episode, or you don't care that you're about to have it spoiled for you. So here goes. Not going to talk about much about a synopsis on this. Again, we assume this is a mini review. I'm not going to sit here and explain the plot to you of something that, if you watched it on BBC America, ended about an hour and a half ago. Hour, 2 hours, I'm not sure exactly. I don't get my stuff from BBC America. It's amazing to me, man. It's amazing to me. Modern technology, right? When I first started watching Doctor Who, with like my kids and stuff, or Christmas time with my family, I would be able to get a 720p copy within 45 minutes or so after the show aired. Now it's down to about 5 minutes. 5 minutes after it airs in the UK, I have a 1080p copy, so I get to watch these a little bit earlier. A 1080p screener. A 1080p screener. Larry says, watched Day of the Doctor yesterday. Yeah, I sometimes rewatch that. That is such a good episode. That is so good. And it was after that where do you go? You're Stephen Moffat. You've written that episode, the best Doctor. I'm not even sure it's arguable that it's anything other than the best Doctor Who episode made ever. And where do you go after that? There's only down, and that's kind of what happened with him. One thing I'm going to mention about this poster right next to me here. Ran across this, and one glance. Now it's a painting. This is not a picture, a photograph. This is a painting, and it's not credited, but I am absolutely fracking certain that this is an Alex Ross painting. If you're not familiar with Alex Ross, go get familiar with him. He does the most amazing artwork. He's done a ton of art for superheroes. He does the best Superman I have ever seen in my fracking life, and he does all kinds of them. I occasionally have his art on when I'm doing things I used to do. I'm not doing them much anymore because of time constraints. When I was used to be doing superhero anniversaries, I would show some of his stuff. He's amazing. And just looking at it, just glancing at it and being aware of how his art works, I am dead certain that this is an Alex Ross painting. So, hey, we're going to be having this up here whenever I want to do a poster-like thing from now on for this show. Okay, so not going over the plot. The cringe moments, because I did have some. I saw the Doctor being accused as a witch coming a mile away. I assume damn near everybody did. She was a woman with a sonic screwdriver that has the exact same dramatic purpose as a magic wand, and she's using it, and, it was only a matter of time. It was only a matter of time. Saw that one coming a million miles away. Larry says, Alex Ross did all superheroes, DC and Marvel and more. Oh, God, yes. Yes, he doesn't just do DC. He doesn't just do Superman. He does actual paintings. He gets people, that he knows or that can reasonably, actually pose for something, and he paints them, changing things around. And so, it's part of why his stuff looks so good is because superhero costumes, most artists just draw them as though they're glued to the skin, that they're a second skin, like you practically put, body paint over somebody. No. His costumes have folds in them in the right place. It's just, you can see it here. This has got to be an Alex Ross. This has to be. So, yeah, he does all kinds of superheroes, still does. If you can find any of them, I really like, he's got a very large panoramic one that he did for the old Justice Society of America from the 1940s that includes Batman and Superman and everybody. It's a very, very good one. Just great. Sonic Screwdriver, Larry says, shows up in the third Doctor. Yeah, actually, the first time the Sonic Screwdriver appeared was the second Doctor, but at that time, the Sonic Screwdriver looked a lot like a pen light. Looked very much exactly like a pen light, you know, an aluminum pen light. But the third Doctor started using his sonic screwdriver more as a magic wand, and it started being used like that until, you know, just increasingly, till the 2005 series just said, screw it. The dramatic function of the sonic screwdriver is to be a magic wand, and so it is. So that's why, you know, I mean, the Doctor being accused of a witch, I saw that coming a mile away. Other little cringe moments here, the aliens, the Morax, monologuing about themselves, rather than the Doctor or her companions or somebody figuring something out about them. They had to sit and monologue about themselves. Whenever the aliens have to monologue about themselves so you find out what they are, that's unsatisfying. It's much better if the Doctor or the companions, I mean, if they'd said something like, "We are the Morax," and they said, she says, "The Morax, oh my God, I know all about you guys. You were sentenced to, you were sentenced off far away in space because of war crimes. What the hell are you doing here?" And they could say, "Well, we were sentenced here." She'd go, "Oh my God, that's terrible," you know. But no, it was just the Morax saying, we're here because of this, and this is who we are. And anytime the villain has to monologue about themselves, I think that's probably bad. Then there's the name of the aliens, the Morax. And they were set free when somebody cut down a tree, the only tree on the hill. When I heard them say Morax, I had to back up the thing and make sure that's what they said, because the only thing I could think of was the Lorax. I don't know if that was intentional, but man, it's so close to the Dr. Seuss thing. Kind of have to wonder if there wasn't some rather heavy-handed messaging going on there. Another thing that's kind of a cringe moment is Pendle Hill, where all of this takes place, is an actual place in Lancashire. According to my research that I did this afternoon, it is not very populated. The hill still stands there pretty much as it did a long time ago. Yes, Sarah Jane, the journalist, would find out the facts. Yep, exactly. Somebody, you know, if you'd written it differently, it could have been in something. You know, the Doctor oftentimes knows about people that we have no idea about, you know, and she could have said something, you know, this is, oh, okay, I've heard of you guys. You know, you did this, you did that, you were terrible. You can even tie it back to the Time War if you wanted to. Oh, I fought you SOBs in the Time War. We sent you off someplace, you know, but it never happened. And like you say, somebody else, some other companion might have found out, and that's unsatisfying. When the villain has to say who they are, that's unsatisfying. But anyway, this place, let me check again. Pendle Hill. It is still a real place. It is largely still uninhabited. It stands pretty much as, I think, they just took an actual video of it, you know, the real place, or a picture. And they just put them back in there in prison. And you just have to wonder, isn't this going to be a problem in the future sometime? What if somebody, you know, actually starts to live on that hill? You know, what if it becomes, I mean, do you really want to send these guys back there? You know, there's human beings. Actually, if you look at it now, there's a village encroaching on it. Sounds like a potential problem to me. If I had been the Doctor, I would have done something different than just leave them there, you know. There were some great moments. Always like to talk about those. In general, this was an episode that pretty well kept me on the edge of my seat. And again, it was largely because I'm aware of how insane those witch trials were, you know. And at any time, any woman could be accused, and the way they'd figure out if she was innocent or not would be to try to drown her. And of course, everybody drowned. So that part of it sort of kept me on the seat, because like, okay, who are they going to go after next, you know? And the really big, great moment, and this is partly the writing, but it's also partly the actor doing it. I really, really loved Alan Cumming as King James I. I thought he was great. Writer on this one is Joy Wilkinson. She has an IMDb that goes 2006 to present with 6 writer credits. She's also going to write the next episode, It Takes You Away. And she has multiple TV series, including 36 episodes of Doctors. So while she only has 6 credits, one of those translates into 36 episodes and has won no awards. The writing was fine for the most part, aside from the stuff I talked about in the cringe moments. Again, it pretty much kept me on the edge of my seat. I don't know how much of that was due to the... I mean, the episode was paced well. It was, well plotted. Just I'm not sure how much of being kept on the edge of my seat was, oh, this is a really horrible thing in history. I knew that going into it. What's going to happen? Aside from the doctor being accused of witchcraft, I mean, what do you expect? Performances. Well, you may notice every week I find a new one with Jodie Whittaker looking hot because I like to gloat to all the fangirls that this time around I get to think the doctor is hot. So, yeah. This is the first time that we have seen a female doctor come up against the kind of discrimination that went on against women basically throughout most of history until the beginning of the 20th century. And she played it fine, but to be honest, I think the discrimination should have been far, far worse, because that's what it usually was really worse. You had some notable exceptions, Queen Elizabeth I and stuff like that, but for the most part, women were second-class citizens, and especially a weirdly dressed woman like this who has a magic wand. Yeah, I would have thought there'd been more. But she played what she had fine, and I have no real problems with that. And Bradley Walsh is Graham again. He didn't have so much to do here. I thought it was amusing that he got made, I forgot what they call it, basically head witch hunter, and the king gave him a hat that already had a bullet hole through it because he had to kill the last one. I didn't think that particular exchange was funny. That was mostly in the writing, but it was also in the characterization of King James I was just, I loved that. I think it was the best part of the episode. But Graham doesn't have a whole hell of a lot to do here. He's, going around and finding information, but again, problem is it wasn't the information that led to the climax and denouement of the story. That had to be provided by the aliens themselves, which I just find unsatisfying for the most part. Maybe she should have kept her magic wand, the screwdriver, out of sight. Yeah, well, the moment as she pulled it out, I went, it's witch hunting. Sure looks like a magic wand to me, especially the way you're using it, scanning everything, scanning people, scanning this, scanning that. Of course they're going to think you're a witch. I still, as always, continue to like Graham, and that's probably mostly because he is the companion that, for the first time, I think in the show's history, with the exception of, Donna's father, who's a little too old for me, but he's close enough in my age that I identify with him, and that's probably why I like him more than anybody else. Aside from the doctor, of course, because I think she's hot. So there, women. Mandip Gill as always. She gets a bit more to do here. We find out a little bit more about her character, in as much as there's a parallel between her and the peasant woman. We get to find out that she was sort of mistreated in school for about a year, which she calls the year from hell, which, of course, is immediately interpreted literally when she says it, which is kind of funny. But she is still probably the character about whom we know the least, aside from she's a police constable who is not doing her job right now, and you have to wonder what that means in terms of her career. He conducted an orchestra in that pick. To be honest, I don't think so. I think that's a book. He's holding a script in his hand. I don't remember where I got that. Somewhere off of a DuckDuckGo image search. But I think he's holding a book in his hand. I think that's what he's holding. I don't know what it's from. We have, as always, Tosin Cole as Ryan. Now, the amusing thing about this is all of King James' homosexual undertones that are going, because King James I was gay. And there are a lot of homosexual undertones going on here with Ryan. I think that Ryan gets it. Now, that's a bit of a problem with me. I'm unclear how much he's getting versus how much he's just like, no, I'm not that guy. But, the whole thing was, with King James calling him a Nubian and kind of eyeing him and saying, so what are you here for? Is it torture? And I thought that whole exchange was really funny. And Cole was like, no, I'm mostly here for paperwork. Oh, paperwork. We'll have to talk about that. It was just a whole series of funny exchanges because King James was gay and he was portrayed as such. So, and then we come to King James 2, my very favorite part of this whole thing. Alan Cummings as King James. You may recognize his face in various places in fandom. He has an IMDb that runs 1984 to present with 120 acting credits, 2 in pre-production, multiple TV series with multiple regulars, a mix of both British and American film and a TV. I'm certain he's a well-known face in Britain and quite possibly as well in the US, although I knew him from other things. He also has 7 producer credits, 18 soundtrack credits, 4 director credits. And I, of course, remember him from a number of places. The first time I remember seeing him that I really stuck with me was in the movie GoldenEye, the Bond movie GoldenEye, in which he played one of the bad guys, I think a computer geek, Boris Grishenko. And he has this line that he goes, I am invincible, right before he's killed. And I've remembered him ever since that. He was also in 3 of the Spy Kids movies. I'm not sure if there were more. Spy Kids 2, Island of Lost Dreams, Spy Kids 3, Game Over, in which he could play the character Fagan Farouk. He was also in X-Men 2, in which he played Nightcrawler. He has been around a while. He's been all over. I just got a kick out of him here. He's won awards, the Scotland BAFTA in 2018 for Outstanding Contribution to Film and Television, the British Comedy Awards in 1992 for Best TV Comedy Newcomer for Bernard and the Genie, the Clotrudis Award in 2001, he got the Gertrudis Award, I'm not quite sure what that all means, the Film Independent Spirit Awards in 2007 for Best First Feature for Sweetland. He won the Frameline San Francisco International LGBTQ Film Festival Award in 2017, the Frameline Award. Keep in mind, he is also gay, as well as playing a gay character here. He won the GLAAD Media Award in 2005, the Vito Russell Award, the Key West Film Festival Award in 2012 for a career achievement. A career achievement? I'm like, okay, I guess, but seems to me like this guy's probably got a lot of career in front of him. He did Cabaret on Broadway. I didn't know that. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked at all. Let's see. He also won the LA Outfest Award in 2012 for Best Actor for Any Day Now. The National Board of Review in the United States in 2002 for Best Acting by an Ensemble for Nicholas Nickleby. The Provincetown International Film Festival Award in 2007 for Excellence in Acting. And the Seattle International Film Festival Award in 2012 for Best Actor for Any Day Now. So, as I say, for me, he is the best part of this whole episode. He is the best part of the episode. I really like his performance. Again, particularly when he's interacting with Ryan, because he has these undertones that, to the viewer at least, are just totally unmistakable. And as far as being gay, if you look back historically, King James I was about as out as you could get. I mean, I don't think probably most of his subjects knew that he was gay, but a lot of his court did, apparently. You might remember, too, that he is the guy. King James I was the first person who ordered the Bible to be translated into English. It is where we get the King James Bible. And throughout the episode, he does legitimately seem to be somebody of two minds. He is probably listening to the doctor to some extent because he's gay, something that's condemned in the Bible, but at the same time, witchcraft is also condemned, obviously, so when the doctor is trying to set him straight, he does listen to some extent and changes as a character at the end of it. He's both flamboyant and regal, which works really well with this character. So I can't fault him. He He's a lot of fun in this episode. He's just a lot of fun. Even when he's being menacing or threatening, I just get a kick out of him. He's got a really good performance here. Yeah, he's a working actor in any medium. Yeah, absolutely. Should point that out to Larry for my newer viewers. Always want to point out people who have got this many credits. Let me go back and read it here. 120 acting credits, you know, and a whole bunch of other stuff, and TV shows, and in theater as well. I didn't look up his theater work because that would have been a whole probably other rabbit hole to go down. But when you get that many credits, and it's for TV shows and multiple episodes and multiple movies, and you know, ones that are really popular and some that are not so much, but you know, more intellectual, you're talking about a guy who is a worker. You're talking about somebody who is constantly working at his craft, which is not something that most actors do. Most actors wait tables. There are thousands of actors out there whose names that you will never know unless they happen to sign the check that they're giving to you to pay for your meal. That's what most actors do. So when you get into somebody like this who is clearly constantly working at his craft and doing a damn good job, as I say, I just get a kick out of his performance here. I like to call those guys workers. They are working. Then, as Becca Savage, the real bad guy of this episode, we have Siobhan Finnerman, who has an IMDb that runs 1987 to present, with 57 acting credits, 1 completed and not yet aired, 1 in pre-production, and 1 announced, with multiple TV series. So again, remember, 57 acting credits listed. However, one of those is for 44 episodes of Benidorm, and also another one for 25 episodes of Downton Abbey. So clearly yet another worker. And she's done almost exclusively British TV, and I'm certain that she is a known face in Great Britain. She's won a couple of awards. She won the SAG Award in 2013 for Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Drama Show for Downton Abbey, and also won TV Guide Award in 2013 for Favorite Feud for Downton Abbey, which I assume is something that they do for soap operas, which Downton Abbey, I understand, is. I've never seen it, but that's what I understand it is. Her performance here is fine. I have, you know, nothing bad to say about her performance. I am curious, because I don't know, how much of the performance she gives after the, you know, her character turns outright into an evil-looking alien is her under makeup or her under some level of you know, special effect. I don't know. Either way, you know, she's believable as a villain who would you know, do horrible things like she does, killing like everybody every weekend. She kills a new person because of what's going on with her, and you know, all that. It's believable, you know, under the circumstances. If it's something where you were going to do this today, you know, she'd just be a horrible murderess. But in this case, you're dealing with a time period when, oh, a witch, okay, let's all go have a big celebration on Sunday, and then we'll kill a witch. Right. But in any case, also a worker, also doing a good performance here. Can't fault her for her performance whatsoever. Then we have Tilly Steele as Willa Twiston, who was the basically the other main character in this show. Oh, I feel old. She's got an IMDb from 2016 to present, with 5 acting credits, exclusively TV, and was a regular on one TV show for Victoria, so one of those acting credits translates to 9. Oddly enough, when I checked IMDb again today, she was not yet credited in IMDb for this episode, so I assume she's going to be. What am I told? Her performance is fine. She's fine. She's, you know, playing a character who's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And she does that well. You know, she feels like she has to tell the truth to the doctor when she's alone with the doctor or her companions, but once she's confronted with people like royalty, she feels like she has to lie or she's going to die, which is probably true. It is really only the doctor being able to convince the king that things are not the way they seem that causes her to be able to change her mind. So, good performance there. I suspect that she may also be a face that is at least to some extent known in Great Britain. Now, the production. Going to talk about this again. What's the problem with the show? Because it has a problem. It is what's missing, as I said last week. I think I've said for a couple of weeks now. What's missing in this season so far are good character development for all of the companions. Because since Doctor Who started in 2005, the character development has largely been about the companions and not the Doctor. He gets some, but it's over a very long period of time. The companions get their character development inside of a season or inside of a series of seasons or something like that. And when you have 3 of them, it becomes very, very damned difficult to give them all the character development they need. And I said that going in. If you go back and watch my first episode, I said, I wonder if this won't be a problem. And it is. It has been a problem. We have not had much character development with any of these people. The other thing lacking are season-long arcs. You know, something where you have an episode that asks some questions about some larger subject. Second episode asks some more questions while answering maybe some of the first. I mean, we've seen it all over. It's a common way to do TV. It's the way they've done Doctor Who since 2005. You have a series-long arc that then ties up someplace nicely in the last couple of episodes of the season. And in the case of Matt Smith, you have an entire character-long arc that, you know, from the beginning to the end, there was an arc that part of the reason that, you know, he was as good as he was with Stephen Moffat before he jumped the shark was he had that amazing arc all planned out. He had to have. There was no way he could have done it otherwise. And we're not seeing that here. I've said before, I do like the fact that the show is much lighter. It's interesting to note technically in this episode. There are a lot of moments that are lit very brightly, and then there are some, particularly involving the bad guys, where it's lit kind of washed out. That is exactly how it was lit during the Capaldi era, the entire time, washed out. Here it works because we're dealing with, you know, these nasty aliens and a time period where if you are accused of a witch, you were just dead. You were just dead. And so doing the washing out of the color scheme when those things are happening works because you can see the contrast between them. All of Capaldi's era was washed out and dark, and so were all of his scripts. Now this script is dark in a couple of places. You know, a couple of people, woman that's killed for not being a witch, and the doctor almost herself, although anybody who thought she was going to die or regenerate underwater was an idiot. But you know, it's a good contrast this time around. So it's good that he's taking the Doctor lighter in general, and it's definitely good he's taking the Doctor back to a fast-paced Doctor, like we're used to seeing in the show since 2005. But he's still missing the big picture, and I don't think that he's the right guy to be the showrunner on the show. I am glad, having seen what writing he's done, that he is not writing most of the scripts the way that prior showrunners did. However, he's not giving the guidance that they need to have. He's not got this arc where he can say, okay, yeah, write the script that you want to script, but make sure we get these little plot points in because it's part of our larger arc. It's just not happening. We aren't seeing any of that. Larry says, maybe the star of the show doesn't want time spent on other characters. Well, there isn't that much time spent on the Doctor either. You know, there isn't much character development going on anywhere. You know, where you know, you could, if you saw Day of the Doctor, I mean, there's a brilliant line in there that sums up perfectly the differences between the character of the Doctor as played by Matt Smith and as played by David Tennant. You know, not Rose, but Bad Wolf Girl says, the one who regrets, and the one who forgets. Great line. This Doctor is more like pre-Time War doctors, in as much as she doesn't seem to have this kind of, you know, guilt hanging over her head about all the things that she did. But it comes off as kind of two-dimensional. I mean, we don't see her doing anything Maybe they think it's just enough that she's a woman. I hope not. I hope not. That's not what's going through their head. Because I have not seen that much social justice warrior stuff going on or feminism stuff going on. Maybe, I hope not, but maybe they just figure they don't have to do that kind of characterization with her because she's a woman. Well, this is the same doctor who supposedly killed millions in the Time War due to her actions. Despite the fact that, saved Gallifrey, still a lot of blood on the doctor's hands, and that has not changed just because he's a woman. I think there's somewhere you could go with that. But again, there isn't really that much character development with anybody, even the doctor. But anyway, I don't think that Chris Chibnall's right for the job. I think they probably should let him go at the end of this season and hire somebody who was more similar to Stephen Moffat before Moffat jumped the shark after the Day of the Doctor. Now, getting into some of the production aspects. The direction on this was by Sally Abrahamian, which we've seen her direct before. Her direction is fine here. Now, I've said several times as we've gone throughout this season, I love it when we get location shooting. At least what I think is location shooting, because you can never tell anymore but whether they're going to put a green screen in someplace. But I love when they get location shooting. And so right off the bat, you kind of have to hand it to a director who can do the location shooting, because they're operating as usual under the 3 restrictions of every theatrical endeavor: time, talent, and money. I think they have a fair amount of talent. I think they're fairly well funded, but the time is always a crunch. You just never have the time to do what you like to do in a television episode as you do in a movie. And the other thing about that is they're shooting in Great Britain, a damp, foggy island. It's not like shooting in Southern California, where you can be pretty sure you're going to have a nice sunny day on any given day. They can get rain. If you watch like Torchwood, for example, I've listened to some of the behind-the-scenes commentary, and they will say, "Yeah, there's a problem here. We had a continuity error because we started shooting this one night, and then it started to rain, but that's not you kind of flips back and forth." So the fact that we could do this at all, and there is one scene when it's raining, I doubt very much whether that was necessarily intentional. That was just when they'd scheduled the shooting, and it's not always sunny in Great Britain. So I always hand it to a director who can do the location shooting, and particularly in Great Britain, where you're not going to have a sunny day every day. It's characterized by its own citizens from time to time as a damp, foggy island. So good on her for being able to do that. Beyond that, I would say that the direction is okay. There's nothing in there, really. I didn't see any shots that jumped out at me that said, wow, this is great. I don't think there's anything in there aside from lighting and some of the cinematography, which is kind of weird considering what I'm about to say. But that was jumping out at me as anything other than kind of pedestrian for modern work. You had what you needed to have. The lighting was appropriate when it got darker, when you're dealing with those mud creatures, and instead of having it sunny outside, it's now darker. And I'm sure that was partially because they put filters on it on purpose. So that all works, and I think that's good. And as I say, you get a contrast. It's not like all of Capaldi Zero, where the whole thing was shot with filters that washed everything out, that just desaturated everything. They desaturated in places here, but but it's intentional, and it's for a dramatic purpose, and so that's part of why the aliens seem as bad as they are. Aside from that, in terms of where the camera's going and what it's doing, relatively pedestrian from my perspective, but that was okay. Interesting thing about this is I should have watched the end credits closer, because I bet somebody was credited that I missed, because there wasn't anybody in IMDb credited as a cinematographer, which is kind of weird. You know, usually they at least have somebody as a cinematographer. As I've said a million times before in my reviews on a really good film, really good TV series, usually have some give and take, collaboration between a director and a cinematographer, where a director will say, because the director will say, here's a shot I want to get. Cinematographer's job is to get that shot, but sometimes the cinematographer will have a good idea, and they'll say, hey, that's a good idea, but what if we switch the lighting just slightly here, and what if we change the angle just a little bit, because we can take advantage of whatever's on the set or whatever's in our location, and we can make it a little more dramatic. And you always hope that's what's going on. I have no way to tell here, no way to tell. I am not familiar enough with the director's work nor with the cinematographer's work to be able to say, because sometimes you can. Sometimes I'm familiar enough with their work that I can say, this looks like this cinematographer. Star Trek, the original series, right? Jerry Finnerman? Yeah, I'm familiar with his cinematography. A couple of the directors, I'm familiar with their directing, so I can look and say, oh, yeah, when they put that, that band of light across Kirk's face, yeah, I recognize that stuff. But here I don't know. What you always have to fall back on, as I always say, is the two major things with the cinematographer. Could you see what you were supposed to see, and did you know what you were supposed to look at? The latter, yes. I knew what I was supposed to look at. There were some shots that, because of the backlighting being done on the Doctor, I couldn't see what I was supposed to be seeing. Maybe it was a question of the director not telling Jodie Whittaker, don't move your head so much. But they would have like a couple of shots, it was only a couple, where the backlighting was such that it was hitting her hair, and it made her hair look nice. But then she'd move her head slightly, and all of a sudden her face was half dark and you couldn't see it. It came up a couple of times. Not much. It was only a couple of 3 shots, but I noticed it because I was suddenly going, wait, I'm seeing the light now. The light that's behind her, I'm seeing that. I'm just not seeing her. So couldn't always see what you were supposed to see. Visual effects, as with the rest of the season, are by Martin Western. Here we get into a weird area with the visual effects and the makeup and the costume design, because I don't know where they overlap anymore. In older films and TV shows that I review, you can usually say, this was a costume, that was makeup, that was a special effect. Here, when you get to the way these aliens are, the people, I'd have to say there's some level of costuming and makeup going on, but there's probably also some visual effects that I'm not seeing. The big-ass alien at the end, definitely visual effects, but probably also some costuming and makeup that I don't know. The line is completely blurred. I have no way to know what it is. So I'd have to say, from what I saw, the visual effects, the ones that I knew were visual effects, were great. Really anymore, you only call them out if they suck, and they haven't ever sucked on Doctor Who, not for a long time. So the visual effects are fine. Lighting making her look like Joan of Arc. No, I don't think that was it. I think it's just that I think they were sort of going for this halo effect. Now, it may have been because I'm not recalling the shots that clearly, but it may have been that they just got one of those situations where they got lucky. They were outside, they're shooting, the sun was going down, and they went, oh, wow, that looks really nice, kind of a halo on Jodie's hair. Okay, let's get that shot. But somebody should have said to her, don't move your fracking head at all. When you're delivering your lines, do not move your head, because you move it too far this way, and all of a sudden your face is dark. So, no, not looking like Joan of Arc, but I think they just saw it, or they did it on purpose. They did it on purpose with lighting and said, I just didn't say to her, don't move your head very much, because if you do, we're going to lose that, and it's going to put you in darkness. So, but again, back to the visual effects. The ones I knew were visual effects were great, and I suspect that there were more of them that I did not know about. I don't know. We get into this weird area with modern science fiction where the costumes and the makeup and the visual effects, unless you know, you can't tell. Unless you've been behind the scenes or you look some behind the scenes stuff, you just can't tell what's what. Production design, as always, by R. Jones. Did good production design in terms of a number of things. I don't know for sure whom or where they found the exteriors to shoot, the location shooting, but it was very good. The interior of the peasant huts looked about right to me. No, most people don't know. There's a lot of people who want to romanticize pre-technological civilization. Don't romanticize pre-technological civilization. It sucked. Most of the time, your average peasant lived in ways, working from dawn until dusk, dying at the age of 45 to 50 years old, and, shivering in the dark. That's how they pretty much lived. I've seen the same thing here out in the Upper Great Plains. People want to romanticize how things were with Native Americans. Well, okay, there's no question in my mind. Native Americans have been screwed and screwed and screwed and screwed. But the fact is, they did not live in one with nature. In the Upper Great Plains, the number of tribes that there were usually were so many that they were at peace with a dozen while simultaneously warring with another 20. And then they would get winters like we now have here. We just had a blizzard come through. The wind chill today got down to at least -8 degrees Fahrenheit, and probably is less now. Hell, I'll check. It's got to be less now. The wind chill must be horrifying right at the moment. Let's see. The outright temperature here in beautiful Midtown, Lincoln, Nebraska is 22 degrees. However, the wind chill is 9 degrees. And that's what the American Indians of the Upper Great Plains would get every year. People would be dying from, freezing. You could die of heat stroke in the summer because it gets up to 110 in the shade. You don't want to romanticize that kind of life. So when I see something that looks relatively accurate for the time, that's not over-romanticizing that sort of thing, I think it looks good, and I'm happy with it. So in that respect, I think R. Jones did very well. Also, the other thing that he did well that most people don't know, if you get inside one of those manors like they had, somebody who is, I guess she was low-end royalty, those things aren't as big as you think. They were never as big as you think. The hallways are thinner, the rooms are smaller, but you have to keep it in contrast to the way their peasants were living, which was in hovels, and they were starving and shivering in the dark. So even then, this mansion house, which would be nothing compared to a modern mansion today, is still pretty amazing, considering the level of technology. So he also did that right. It was not a huge house. The hallways were not very wide. The main bedroom was not that huge. So also good production design from that perspective, I thought. Moving into makeup, again by Amy Riley, as we have had all this season. Again, just don't know where one starts and where one stops. I am certain that a lot of the mud people must have been a ton of makeup. And if so, that worked really great. I never for once questioned the notion that they were human beings that had been taken over by aliens and now looked like mud people. The deal is, though, I'm also certain there were special effects involved, and there was a lot of costuming involved. So you kind of have to put them all together and say they all worked great. I never questioned for one moment what was happening. Didn't like that the aliens had to monologue about themselves, but in terms of what I was seeing, yeah, totally believable. And then costume design, again, by Ray Holman. Costumes here, the period costuming of the people, great. The peasants looked like peasants. The royalty looked like royalty. King James I, I thought, everything he was wearing was great. It just all worked really well together. King James I, there was a number of things going on, not just, that actor, but also, the makeup that they gave him, the costuming that they gave him that made him just that much more flamboyant and regal at the same time. This is one of those deals where I say this is why you felt a certain way. You felt a certain way because a whole bunch of stuff fell into place at the same time. The actor, the makeup they were doing, the costuming that they were doing, and how that affected him and how he portrayed the character. Just great. Great. That's why you felt, if you felt like I did, then he was a hell of a lot of fun to watch, even when he's kind of menacing. It's because all those things were coming together at the same time, so it was very nice. But otherwise, costuming, again, you have to assume that some level of the Mud to People costuming was costuming, and makeup, and probably special effects thrown in, all of which worked fine. I just don't know. It's a problem anytime I review modern films. I just don't know where the line ends anymore. You know, there are green screens used in places that you never think of. There's on-set special effects being done or on-set makeup being done that you have to assume is a special effect. Or they put motion capture on them and it's all CGI and you can't tell the difference. About the only thing you can say is when you get into things like, you know, Thanos. Okay, all right, okay, big giant purple space alien. Got it. Motion capture. Must be CGI. But there are other things like they started with Iron Man back in, 2008, with a lot more of Robert Downey Jr. in a costume, in a Iron Man costume. Now, it's all motion capture, so... Larry says, English actors love playing English royalty. And I think in this particular case with Cummins, it was probably sort of a labor of love. How many times do you get to play how many times does a gay man get to play a gay king? You know, especially in one where the king comes across as somebody who is interested in the universe around him, wants to learn more about it, but is also caught up in the period of his time when worried about, you know, satanic influences and stuff like that. Yet at the same time, he's gay, which the Bible says is bad. So he's in this weird position, and the actor is able to pull it off. He's able to totally pull it off. And again, you get this, you know, all the costuming and everything going along with it, and the makeup, and it was just... I say, if you like me and you just like this mostly for his performance, which I have to say, the biggest thing I liked about this was that performance. It was a number of things, both behind and in front of the camera, that all came together to work very well simultaneously. Music again is by Sagun Akinola. I have to say there were some points, there were moments, individual moments, where his music did finally stand out to me. Or her. I should find out whether that person is male or female. I think it's male. But there were moments when the music actually stood out for me for a couple of times. I can't, you know, it wasn't something where I can shove down a particular point, a particular scene, but there were moments where I thought, oh, okay, the music is getting a little bit more creative instead of just sticking with some of the same instruments. It's like the first episode, when I could make out blaster beams. And I thought that was an interesting use of blaster beams under those circumstances. There were a couple of times when, if you watch the opening credits have, I like them. I like the music for the opening credits, by the way. It has this, you know, this sudden bass that comes in from, you know, it matches perfectly when there's a big thing happening on the screen, where there's this huge bass that we have not heard before, and some of that was being used here, and I thought really effectively. So that being about the end of the review, we ask ourselves, is this any good? Yes, I liked this episode. I liked it. It as I say, it largely kept me on the edge of my seat, but that again was how much of this is, you know, how bad can this get? Because it could get really, really bad. You know, the Salem witch trials, they burned them at the stake. And again, I was totally aware of, you know, okay, let's test for a witch by dunking her underwater. If she drowns, she's not a witch. You know, how bad could things be? So I kind of knew that going in, and so I was like, what are these idiot witch finding fracks going to do next? I did see the doctor being accused as a witch coming from a mile away. I knew that from the episode title. The moment I saw the episode title was Witchfinders, I went, oh, going back in time. Doctor's going to be there with the magic wand, and they're going to accuse her of being a witch at some point. If you didn't get that, yay for you, but that definitely means you weren't a Fandi master. And again, I thought the exposition that came out of the aliens was unsatisfying. That's stuff that we should learn throughout the course of the episode, not something that should be presented to us. Okay, the bad guy turns into a big nasty alien, and the doctor's, who are you? And we're these guys. We're bad guys who were sentenced here to Earth because of war crimes. You know, as opposed to maybe the doctor going, wait, mud people? I've heard about that someplace before. Mud people, where have I heard that? And then when they finally show up, you say, mud people, that's right. I remember you guys. We fought you in the Time War, and we sent you off to be prisoned. They sent you here? They didn't tell me they sent you here. I wouldn't have let them. You know, so something like that would have worked better, I think. Yeah, Monty Python has a hilarious take on witches and the Holy Grail. Yeah. Yeah, he does. Yeah. Well, Monty Python, that's a whole other thing. But yes, you know, the whole notion of how they did witches. I mean, you're innocent. What do you got going for you then? You're dead. You know, it's as bad as things could get. So I did really, really like how King James I was played. I would recommend this episode because of that, if nothing else. But besides those other cringe moments, I would still recommend the episode. And again, it feels like maybe they're starting to find their stride with the show. Sadly, however, they are starting to find it in the 7th or 8th episode, and now we've only got 2 left for the season, plus the one that's going to be on New Year's Day. And that's unfortunate. It would have been nicer if they had a plan. Chris Chibnall, I'm looking at you. If you had an arc for this character, if you had some characterization for her, she still is the doctor. She still has a lot of blood on her hands in the Time War. This is still something that can affect her. It isn't just that she's a woman now and we forgot about all that stuff. She still has all that blood on her hands. You can do characterization with her. And I would probably get rid of the companions, except for Graham. Keep him around. I think he's a fine person to keep around. Give me a doctor that's hot with really good characterization, and a Graham character that's about my age who can run interference for her, which, frankly, she's going to need sometimes. You go back into a lot of history, you're going to find where women are really treated badly. So occasionally he's going to have to be the guy that's going to be, you know, put in front of her. Keep those 2 around. Do character development on the 2 of them. I'll be happy. Yeah, no Christmas episode is a big mistake. Yeah, I think probably it is too. They've been doing that basically since the series started, with the exception of the End of Time, which took place over not just Christmas but also New Year's. But yeah, I think it's probably a mistake as well. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what the story is. You know, some of the best episodes have been the Christmas ones. Capaldi's best episodes, from my perspective, he's got several, but one were the Zygon ones. Those were classic and brilliant. And then the Christmas one where he had the superhero in New York City, I thought was great. It was nice. It was lighthearted. And the Wedding of River Song. Not Wedding, but the Husbands of River Song. Just great episodes. And, you know, with the Christmas theme, I thought worked really well. And I think you're right. Not having one may be a mistake. So, I guess all that said, let me see if I can slide myself a little bit closer to the center of the screen. I'll see if I can do some add to copy. Next Sunday on Tales from SYL Ranch, on the edge of a Norwegian fjord, in the present day. Now the doctor and her companions discover a boarded-up cottage and a girl named Han in need of their help. What has happened here? What monster lurks in the woods around the college and beyond? That's next Sunday on the Fandi Masters mini review of Doctor Who Season 11, Episode 8, It Takes You Away. Then, tomorrow, on Tales from SYL Ranch, Professor Quatermass is back, trying to perfect a dangerously unstable nuclear-powered rocket engine. After a disastrous test firing in Australia, his soon-to-be son-in-law, Captain John Dillon, draws the professor's attention to a strange hollow meteorite. Now, the contents of that meteorite threaten the world itself. That's tomorrow on the Fandi Masters retro review of Quatermass 2. And of course, Tales from SYL Ranch is live here Sundays and Mondays for the next couple of weeks on YouTube in North America at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Pacific, and if you're working off of UTC, that'll be at 2 a.m. the following morning. Now, upcoming reviews. I did something on my website. I do have a schedule on my website. Interesting thing about that schedule, if you go to it and if you click on any given item that was after about last week, you might discover a link to which you can watch that item if you want to, and it won't cost you anything. I also have a new section on my website for upcoming coming attractions. And what you can do on YouTube is what I've done, is I have scheduled all of my reviews out through the remainder of this year. Unfortunately, there's no way to publicize this on YouTube. So what I've done is I've made a page with all of those things linked to, which means if you click the play button on it, and you click the set, it's not set alert, it's something like set alarm or something like that, notification or something. But if you click that, unlike when I go live, and YouTube does not always tell you, that will. It will reliably tell you in either the YouTube app, or if you have your web browser configured to allow YouTube to give you, notifications, it will. That will work for sure. Unlike YouTube's notification that doesn't always work for me. So there is a link in the description box below to that coming attractions page. You can go there and take a look and create an alert for yourself so you will be notified. In terms of future reviews, well, again, for the next 2 weeks, Doctor Who, and tomorrow, Quatermass 2. On December 3rd, The Fly from 1958 is hitting its 60th anniversary. I'll be doing that. And December 10th, Superman, the movie, the best Superman movie ever made. You will believe a man can fly. December 17th, working up finally to the 60th anniversary of Quatermass and the Pit, which is probably the best of the three. And again, if you click around, you can find places to watch that. And I finally decided what I'm going to do for the weekend, a week of Christmas. Not going to do Christmas with the Stones like I'd kind of thought about. What I'm going to do, however, is I'm going to come in on the 26th, the day after Christmas, and I'm going to do a review, a 40th anniversary review of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, the movie, not the TV series. They made a TV series out of that, believe it or not. December 31st, well, of course, we will be spending a 5-hour live stream with the Fandi Masters so that we can do celebrate the New Year's. So, getting that out. Celebrate the New Year's with the Fandi Masters, so definitely bring your shampipple. It'll be a 5-hour live stream that I have not yet figured out what the hell I'm going to do for 5 whole hours. But we'll make it work. We'll start here at 8 p.m. Central, the usual time for me, and go through, and as it hits the hour in all the time zones in the U.S., I will celebrate the hour. And I will also be reviewing The Orville, Season 2, Episode 1, Primal Urges. Then January 1st, I will come back and do the Doctor Who New Year's Day special. January 7th, the 70th anniversary of The Son of Frankenstein. And then January 14th, we'll celebrate the Fandi Masters' birthday with the 100th anniversary review of The Mistress of the World. And so at this point, I might ask you something like this.
Say, pardon me, but could you help out a fellow American who's down on his luck? Hit the road!
So if you like what I'm doing, please like, sub, and tell all your friends, family, and neighbors and pets and their livestock to do the same. And you can throw something in my PayPal tip jar. Go to visit my Patreon, visit my website where I've got some more specific things that include a laptop, among some other stuff. I also have some far less expensive things related to photography, so that I can make things look a little better around here. And I got a middling one. I would like very much, I've been trying to get their attention. I would like very much to have as some kind of sponsor, Tilly Hats, because I like their hats. I push them regardless. If you've seen any of the ones where I've done out for my family ranch land, when I'm wearing my Tilly Airflow hat, that means I'm on vacation usually. Problem is, the damn thing is so light that when I put it under the lights here, it's horrifying. But they do make a nice dark hat, very similar to this. It's actually made out of hemp, for those of you that are interested in that sort of thing. And that's about $90. I also have a link to that on the website, so you can see all that at www.wrstone.com, and there's a nice little spot you can click to support me. And as always, I have to thank my viewers who have contributed to me, one of whom is watching right now. Never know quite whether to shout out to people. Some people like to be, some don't. But I am using some of the stuff. If you get me the laptop, you get to be my program director. Get me the hat, then at least I can send Tilly Hats and Tilly Endurables at least a picture of me in the hat on the show, saying, look, I'm pushing your hat already. Why don't you throw a little money my way? So you can certainly get that. And in any case, if it's just money, it's all going to go straight toward that laptop, because the laptop will make a lot of my problems disappear in terms of quality here. So, and I don't know how many times I can say this in a different way. I really get a kick out of the fact that anybody pays me to do this, to have opinions in the first place, and secondarily to watch me do any level of what is some amount of showmanship. You can look at lots of people on YouTube who don't have any production values, and while my coloring is a little flat because photography stuff that I want to get isn't there, it's still better than most people, and I'm putting out an image. So the fact that anybody pays me for this is a giant ego stroke to me. Because, again, a long time ago, galaxy far, far away, I was once an actor, and so getting paid for something like that is a giant kick to me. Yeah, the quality is good right now, but again, I could do better if I had an amber light over here and a blue filter over there. It would make me look more human. It's not bad tonight, but it's what actually you're seeing here, believe it or not. What you're seeing here is a combination of things. The lighting is kind of yellow-white, but it strikes the blue on here, and that makes me look bluer. So it's a combination of how the costume works with the lighting. So I appreciate it, though. Thank you very much, Larry. So I guess that is about all the time that we have today, boys and girls. So tune in again tomorrow for my review of Quatermass 2. Until then, this is Tales from SYL Ranch, the vlogcast that reminds you to always know where your towel is. And I'm your host, Bill Stone.
Ultimate power in this world has always been one simple thing: the control and manipulation of minds.